Quen 2.5 max months had passed since the storm of challenges at Metro Motors, and the dealership was thriving in ways no one could have imagined. The once struggling business had transformed into a shining example of innovation, resilience, and community spirit. Customers lined up to buy cars, employees took pride in their work, and local leaders praised Maya's efforts to uplift the neighborhood. But as much as things seemed perfect on the surface, Maya knew that the final chapter of her journey was still unwritten. One crisp autumn evening, Maya stood outside the dealership, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. She felt a mix of emotions, pride for how far they'd come, gratitude for the people who stood by her, and a quiet unease about what lay ahead. Running a successful business wasn't just about surviving storms, it was about ensuring those storms didn't return, and Maya was determined to leave behind a legacy that would last long after she moved on. The next morning, she called a special meeting with her leadership team. They gathered in the conference room, curious about why she had summoned them so urgently. Maya walked in carrying a stack of papers, her expression calm but serious. "Thank you all for coming," she began, taking a seat at the head of the table. "I wanted to talk about something important, the future of Metro Motors." Everyone leaned forward, intrigued. Over the past year, they had grown accustomed to Maya's bold ideas, but this tone felt different. It was thoughtful, almost reflective. "When I first took over this dealership," she continued, "my goal was simple. Turn it around. Make it profitable, make it respected, and make it a place where people could thrive. We've done that and more. But now I want us to think bigger. What kind of impact do we want to have on this community? On this industry?" A young marketing coordinator raised her hand hesitantly. "What do you mean, bigger?" she asked. "We're already doing so much." Maya smiled warmly. "Exactly. We've proven that we can succeed. But success isn't an endpoint, it's a starting point. Imagine if we could inspire other businesses to prioritize inclusivity, sustainability, and community engagement. Imagine if Metro Motors became a model for what leadership should look like, not just here but everywhere." Her words sparked a lively discussion. Ideas flew across the table, hosting workshops for aspiring entrepreneurs, partnering with schools to teach students about automotive technology, even launching a scholarship fund for underprivileged youth interested in trades. For the first time, the team saw themselves not just as employees of a car dealership, but as agents of change. But Maya wasn't done yet. As the meeting wrapped up, she handed out sheets of paper to each person. "Here's your homework," she said with a playful grin. "Think about one thing you'd like to see Metro Motors achieve in the next 5 years. Something ambitious, something meaningful. Bring your ideas to our next meeting, and we'll build a roadmap together." Over the following weeks, the dealership buzzed with excitement. Employees brainstormed during breaks, shared their visions with colleagues, and poured their hearts into crafting proposals. When the big day arrived, Maya listened intently as each member of the leadership team presented their ideas. Some suggested expanding the mentorship program to include more industries, while others proposed creating a green initiative to reduce the dealership's carbon footprint. By the end of the session, Maya felt a surge of hope. These weren't just plans. They were dreams waiting to be realized. With renewed energy, Maya set the wheels in motion. She reached out to local organizations, securing partnerships to bring her team's ideas to life. Workshops were scheduled, scholarships announced, and eco-friendly practices implemented. The community responded enthusiastically, flooding social media with messages of support. News outlets picked up the story, dubbing Metro Motors the dealership that changed the game. But Maya's proudest moment came when she received an email from a young woman who had attended one of the career workshops. "Thank you for showing me that I belong in this industry," the message read. "I never thought someone like me could succeed in auto repair, but now I know anything is possible." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she read the note. This was why she had fought so hard, to create opportunities for others, to break down barriers, and to remind people that greatness knows no boundaries. As the months rolled on, Metro Motors continued to flourish. Awards poured in, recognizing Everything from customer service excellence to environmental stewardship. Employees celebrated milestones together, sharing laughter and memories that bonded them like family. Even former skeptics admitted that Maya's vision had transformed not just the business but their lives. Then, one day, Maya made an announcement that caught everyone off guard. During a staff gathering, she stepped onto the makeshift stage and addressed the crowd. "This isn't easy for me to say," she began, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "But after careful thought, I've decided it's time for me to step aside." Gasps rippled through the room. Employees exchanged worried glances, unsure of what this meant for the future. Maya held up a hand to silence their concerns. "Don't worry, I'm not leaving you high and dry. I've spent months training my successor, someone who shares my values and understands the heart of this company. My job here is done. Now it's your turn to carry the torch." She went on to explain that her decision wasn't about walking away. It was about trusting the team she had built. "You don't need me anymore," she said with a proud smile. "You've proven that you're capable of running this place better than I ever could. And honestly, that's the greatest gift I could ask for." The room erupted into applause, followed by heartfelt hugs and tearful goodbyes. Employees thanked her for believing in them, for teaching them, and for showing them what true leadership looked like. In that moment, Maya realized that her legacy wasn't the awards or accolades, it was the people standing before her, ready to take the reins and continue the journey. On her last day at the dealership, Maya took one final walk through the showroom. She paused to admire the gleaming cars, the bustling staff, and the smiling customers. Everything about the place reflected the hard work, dedication, and love that had gone into building it. As she stepped outside, she turned back for one last look. Then, with a deep breath, she climbed into her car and drove away. Though Maya was no longer at the helm, her influence remained. Under the new leadership, Metro Motors continued to grow, guided by the principles she had instilled: integrity, inclusivity, and innovation. The dealership became a symbol of what could be achieved when people came together with a shared purpose. Years later, when Maya attended a gala honoring trailblazers in business, she listened as speakers praised her contributions to the industry. But the highlight of the evening came when a familiar face approached her, a young mechanic who had once doubted her methods. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You changed my life. You showed me that no dream is too big if you're willing to fight for it." Maya smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Her journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every challenge. Because in the end, it wasn't about titles, profits, or recognition. It was about making a difference, one person, one idea, one car at a time. The success of Metro Motors had reached heights Maya could have only dreamed of when she first walked into the dealership. Sales numbers were soaring, customer satisfaction ratings were through the roof, and the community had embraced the business like a long-lost friend. But just as things seemed to be running smoothly, cracks began to show. Not in the foundation of the company, but in the hearts and minds of some who worked there. It started subtly at first. A few employees, mostly older ones who had been with the dealership for years, began grumbling during breaks. They complained about the new way of doing things, claiming that Maya's changes disrupted traditions they had grown comfortable with. Others accused her of favoritism, pointing out that younger workers seemed to adapt faster to the modern tools and techniques she introduced. Some even whispered that her initiatives were too flashy and wouldn't last. One afternoon, Maya overheard a heated conversation between two mechanics in the service bay. She was passing by on her way to check inventory when their voices carried over the hum of machinery. "I don't care what she says," one of them muttered bitterly. "This place used to run fine without all these fancy gadgets and programs. Now we're expected to act like robots instead of real people." Maya stopped in her tracks, feeling a lump form in her throat. She didn't want to eavesdrop, but the words stung. After everything she'd done, after all the late nights, tough decisions, and sacrifices she'd made, it hurt to hear someone dismiss her efforts so casually. Still, she took a deep breath and reminded herself that resistance to change was natural. Not everyone would embrace progress right away, and that was okay. What mattered was how she responded. Instead of confronting them directly, Maya decided to address the issue during the next staff meeting. When the day came, she stood in front of the group, her expression calm but serious. "I've heard some concerns lately," she began, looking around the room. "People are saying that we're moving too fast or that the changes I've implemented aren't necessary. Let me start by saying this. Your opinions matter to me. If something isn't working, I need to know about it. But I also want to remind you why we're making these changes." She went on to explain how every decision she made was rooted in a desire to improve not just the business but their lives as employees. The new scheduling software wasn't meant to turn anyone into a robot, as the mechanic had put it. It was designed to save time and reduce stress. The training sessions weren't about singling out favorites. They were about giving everyone the skills needed to succeed in an ever-changing industry. And the focus on customer experience? That was about ensuring job security for years to come. "I'm not here to erase the past," Maya continued. "Far from it. This dealership has history, and I respect that. But clinging to old ways because they feel safe won't help us grow. We have to find a balance between honoring where we've been and embracing where we're going." Her speech earned mixed reactions. Some employees nodded in agreement, while others remained silent, their arms crossed defensively. One man, a senior salesperson who had been with the company for decades, finally spoke up. "Look, I get what you're saying," he admitted. "But change is hard, especially when you've been doing things one way for so long. You can't expect everyone to jump on board overnight." Maya appreciated his honesty. "You're absolutely right," she replied. "Change is hard, and I'm not asking anyone to do it perfectly. All I'm asking is that we try together, because if we stick together, we'll figure it out." Despite her efforts to ease tensions, the resistance lingered. A few employees quit, citing frustration with the direction of the company. Competitors seized the opportunity to exploit the situation, spreading rumors that Metro Motors was falling apart internally. Social media buzzed with speculation, and customers started calling in with questions. Was the dealership really struggling? Were layoffs imminent? Maya knew she couldn't ignore the growing unrest. Ignoring problems never solved anything. It only made them worse. So she did something unexpected. She organized another town hall-style meeting, this time inviting not just employees but also loyal customers and local business owners. Her goal was simple: transparency. Standing in front of the crowd, Maya laid it all out: the challenges, the criticisms, and yes, even her own doubts. "Running this dealership hasn't been easy," she confessed. "There have been days when I wondered if I was cut out for this. Days when I questioned whether all the changes were worth it. But then I remember why I started this journey in the first place, to create something better, for you, for our team, and for this community." She shared stories of triumphs. The single mom who bought her first car thanks to the dealership's flexible financing options, the elderly couple whose vehicle was repaired quickly and affordably after breaking down, the young apprentice who landed a full-time job because of the mentorship program. Each story painted a picture of hope, resilience, and unity. By the end of the meeting, the mood had shifted. Employees who had been skeptical now looked at Maya with newfound admiration. Customers cheered, vowing to continue supporting the dealership. Even some former critics softened their stance, admitting that maybe they had judged too quickly. But the battle wasn't over yet. Just as the dust seemed to settle, a major setback struck. A supplier dispute led to a temporary shortage of parts, causing delays in repairs and frustrating both employees and customers. At the same time, a rival dealership launched a smear campaign, accusing Metro Motors of cutting corners and misleading buyers. Employees grew anxious, worried that the progress they'd fought so hard for might unravel. Maya called an emergency meeting. "We're facing a storm," she told the team bluntly. "And storms test us, they reveal what we're truly made of. Are we going to panic and give up? Or are we going to stand strong and weather it together?" She outlined a plan, reaching out to alternative suppliers, offering discounts to affected customers, and doubling down on communication to keep everyone informed. She also encouraged employees to speak openly about any concerns, promising to address each issue personally. "We've overcome bigger challenges before," she reminded them. "This is just another hurdle and we'll clear it." Inspired by her determination, the team rallied. Mechanics worked overtime to complete repairs using whatever parts were available. Salespeople stayed late to reassure worried clients. Even administrative staff pitched in, answering phones and managing logistics to ensure smooth operations. Slowly but surely, the dealership clawed its way back to stability. Through it all, Maya remained a steady presence. She visited every department daily, checking in with employees and offering words of encouragement. When a young receptionist broke down in tears after dealing with an angry customer, Maya sat with her, listening patiently and sharing advice on handling difficult situations. When a veteran mechanic struggled to adapt to a new diagnostic tool, she rolled up her sleeves and learned alongside him, proving that leadership wasn't about being perfect, it was about being present. As weeks turned into months, the dealership emerged stronger than ever. The parts shortage resolved itself and the smear campaign fizzled out as customers continued to rave about their positive experiences. Employees who had once doubted Maya's vision now championed it, proud to be part of something meaningful. Reflecting on the journey, Maya realized that true leadership wasn't about avoiding storms, it was about guiding others through them. Every challenge had taught her something valuable: patience, humility, and the power of perseverance. And though she knew more obstacles lay ahead, she faced them with confidence, knowing she wasn't alone. Together they had built something extraordinary, a dealership that wasn't just a business, but a beacon of hope and possibility. Little did she know, however, that the final chapter of her story was about to unfold, one that would test everything she had learned and solidify her legacy forever. As Metro Motors continued to grow under Maya's leadership, the challenges didn't disappear. They evolved. Success always comes with its own set of hurdles, and Maya quickly learned that not everyone was happy about the dealership's sudden rise. Some competitors in the area saw her innovations as a threat and began spreading rumors to tarnish the business's reputation. Others doubted her ability to sustain the momentum, questioning whether her strategies were just short-term fixes. One morning, Maya arrived at the dealership to find an anonymous email waiting in her inbox. The subject line read, "Is this really sustainable?" Curious, she opened it and found a scathing message accusing her of cutting corners and misleading customers. The email ended with a warning: "Your house of cards will collapse sooner than you think." At first, Maya felt a pang of frustration. How dare someone question her integrity? But then she reminded herself that criticism, no matter how unfair, came with the territory. Instead of letting it rattle her, she decided to use it as motivation to prove them wrong. Later that day, during a team meeting, Maya addressed the issue head-on. "I want to be transparent with all of you," she said, standing in front of the group. "There are people out there who don't believe in what we're doing. They're spreading lies and trying to bring us down. But here's the thing. We know the truth. We know how hard we've worked to get where we are, and we're not going to let anyone take that away from us." Her words resonated deeply with the staff. Many nodded in agreement while others clapped softly, inspired by her determination. One employee, a young woman from the finance department, spoke up. "What can we do to fight back?" she asked, earnestly. "We don't want their negativity to hurt what we've built." Maya smiled warmly. "The best way to silence critics is by proving them wrong. Keep doing your jobs with excellence. Treat every customer like family. And if anyone tries to spread falsehoods about us, we'll counter it with facts and kindness. That's how we win, not by stooping to their level, but by rising above it." With renewed resolve, the team doubled down on their efforts. Maya worked tirelessly to ensure that every aspect of the dealership reflected quality and care. She invested in advanced analytics tools to track performance metrics, helping identify areas for improvement before problems arose. Sales teams received additional training on customer service, focusing on building long-term relationships rather than just closing deals. Mechanics were given access to state-of-the-art equipment, allowing them to complete repairs faster and more efficiently. But perhaps the most impactful change came when Maya introduced a mentorship program within the dealership. She paired experienced employees with newer hires, fostering collaboration and knowledge sharing across departments. This initiative not only improved skills, but also strengthened bonds among co-workers. For the first time in years, people genuinely enjoyed coming to work. The atmosphere shifted from one of tension and mistrust to one of camaraderie and mutual support. Still, external pressures persisted. Competitors launched aggressive marketing campaigns, claiming their services were superior to Metro Motors. Social media platforms buzzed with negative comments, some legitimate concerns but many baseless attacks. Employees grew anxious, worried that the backlash might scare away potential customers. Even loyal clients started asking questions, unsure of whom to believe. Maya knew she had to act fast. She called another meeting and gathered everyone in the showroom. "Listen carefully," she began, pacing slowly as she spoke. "People are trying to tear us apart. They're attacking our character, our work ethic, even our values. But let me tell you something. They're underestimating us. They don't understand who we are or what we stand for. So instead of cowering, we're going to shine brighter." She unveiled a bold plan, a community event called Metro Motors Day. The idea was simple, yet powerful, to invite local residents, families, and businesses to the dealership for a day filled with fun activities, free car maintenance workshops, and giveaways. It wasn't just about attracting new customers. It was about showing the community that Metro Motors cared about more than profits. It was about trust, connection, and giving back. The staff threw themselves into preparations, working late nights and weekends to make sure everything was perfect. Flyers were distributed throughout the neighborhood, social media posts went viral, and local radio stations helped spread the word. On the day of the event, the parking lot overflowed with cars, and the showroom buzzed with excitement. Families brought their kids who played games and won prizes, while adults attended seminars on vehicle maintenance and financing options. Mechanics offered complimentary inspections, and salespeople answered questions without pushing for commitments. By the end of the day, over 500 people had attended, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Customers praised the dealership's transparency, professionalism, and warmth. Local news outlets covered the event, highlighting Metro Motors' commitment to the community. Most importantly, the negativity began to fade. People realized that the dealership wasn't just a business, it was a pillar of support for the neighborhood. Despite the success, Maya didn't stop there. She understood that true sustainability required constant innovation and adaptability. Over the following months, she introduced eco-friendly initiatives such as offering discounts for hybrid vehicles and partnering with environmental organizations to promote green practices. She also expanded the mentorship program, inviting students from nearby trade schools to intern at the dealership and gain hands-on experience. Employees noticed the difference. One mechanic, who had initially been resistant to change, approached Maya after completing a particularly challenging repair using the new diagnostic tools she'd purchased. "You know," he said, scratching his head sheepishly, "I used to think all this stuff was unnecessary. But now, I see why you pushed for it. Makes my job easier and better." Maya grinned, patting him on the shoulder. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Progress isn't always comfortable, but it's worth it." Word of Metro Motors' transformation spread far beyond the city limits. Industry publications featured articles about Maya's unconventional approach to leadership, praising her focus on inclusivity and community engagement. Other dealerships began reaching out, eager to learn from her example. While some colleagues admired her, others remained skeptical, whispering behind closed doors about whether her success could last. Through it all, Maya stayed humble. She never claimed to have all the answers. In fact, she often admitted that she was still learning. What set her apart was her willingness to listen, adapt, and persevere. Every challenge became an opportunity to grow, both personally and professionally. One evening, as she locked up the dealership after a long day, Maya paused to reflect on how far they'd come. The once dull showroom now gleamed with polished cars and smiling faces. Employees greeted each other warmly, proud of what they'd accomplished together. Customers left satisfied, knowing they were valued, and though obstacles still loomed on the horizon, Maya felt confident that they could overcome anything, as long as they stuck together. Little did she know, however, that the greatest test of her leadership was yet to come. A storm was brewing, one that would force her to confront not only external adversaries, but also lingering doubts within her own ranks. The next few days at Metro Motors were a whirlwind of emotions for everyone involved. The incident with the manager had sent shockwaves through the dealership, leaving employees unsure of what to expect next. Some were thrilled at the prospect of change, while others remained skeptical, clinging to old habits and fears. Maya knew that rebuilding trust wouldn't happen overnight. It was going to take time, effort, and genuine connection. On her second day as the owner, Maya arrived early, determined to set the tone for how things would operate moving forward. She parked her car in the staff lot instead of the designated management spot, wanting to send a subtle message. She wasn't above anyone else here. As she walked into the showroom, she greeted each employee by name, even remembering details from their brief conversations the previous day. Her approachable demeanor caught many off guard, especially those who had grown used to the cold, distant leadership style of the former manager. By mid-morning, Maya called a meeting in the break room. Employees filed in hesitantly, unsure of what to expect. Some sat stiffly in their chairs, arms crossed, while others exchanged nervous glances. Maya stood at the front of the room, leaning casually against a table rather than sitting behind a desk or standing on a pedestal. She wanted this to feel like a conversation, not a lecture. First, she began, her voice warm but firm, I want to thank all of you for sticking around after everything that happened yesterday. I know it wasn't easy, and I can only imagine how confusing or even frustrating it might have been. But let me be clear about one thing. None of you are responsible for what went down. My focus is on making sure we move forward together. Her words hung in the air, and slowly, the tension in the room started to ease. A young salesperson raised his hand tentatively. Ma'am, he said, can you tell us, what exactly are your plans for the dealership? Are there going to be layoffs? Changes to commissions? Maya nodded, appreciating the honesty of the question. Great question, she replied. Let's address the big concerns first. No, there won't be any layoffs, at least not because of anything happening today. What I do plan to do is restructure some roles to make sure everyone feels valued and supported. And yes, there will be changes, but they're not meant to punish anyone. They're designed to help us succeed. She went on to explain her vision for the dealership, modernizing operations, investing in training programs, and creating a more inclusive workplace culture. She emphasized the importance of teamwork and encouraged employees to share their ideas openly. You're the ones on the front lines every day, she told them. You see things I don't. So if something isn't working, or if you think, there's a better way to do things, I want to hear about it. As the meeting continued, more people began speaking up. An older mechanic shared his frustration about outdated tools that made repairs slower than necessary. A receptionist mentioned how difficult it was to keep track of customer appointments without proper scheduling software. Each concern was met with Maya's full attention, and she jotted down notes promising to follow up on every issue. One employee, a middle-aged woman who worked in the finance department, spoke up hesitantly. Ma'am, she said, choosing her words carefully, I just want to say, it means a lot to see someone like you in charge. Not because of, she trailed off, embarrassed, but Maya understood exactly what she meant. It's okay, Maya reassured her with a smile. I know what you're saying, and I appreciate it, but let me make one thing clear. My goal isn't to lead based on appearances. It's to lead based on action. Together, we're going to prove that success has no boundaries, not race, gender, or anything else. All that matters is hard work, respect, and a willingness to grow. Her words resonated deeply with the group. For the first time in years, employees left the break room feeling hopeful. There was still uncertainty, of course, but also a renewed sense of purpose. Maya could see it in their eyes, a flicker of belief that maybe, just maybe, things really could get better. Over the following weeks, Maya rolled up her sleeves and got to work. She didn't hide away in an office. Instead, she spent hours walking the floor, talking to customers and shadowing employees. She learned the ins and outs of every role, from washing cars to negotiating deals. This hands-on approach earned her respect among the staff, many of whom had never seen a leader so willing to immerse themselves in the daily grind. She also implemented small but meaningful changes right away. New uniforms were ordered to replace the worn-out ones employees had been using for years. Break areas were cleaned and stocked with fresh coffee and snacks. Even the bathrooms were given a much-needed upgrade. These gestures may have seemed minor, but they sent a powerful message. Maya cared about the little things because she cared about the people. Not everyone was immediately won over, though. A handful of longtime employees resented her efforts, viewing them as unnecessary meddling. One grizzled veteran of the sales team muttered under his breath during a staff meeting, "This place ran fine before she showed up. Why does she think she knows better?" Others echoed similar sentiments, albeit quietly, worried about rocking the boat. Maya heard the whispers, of course, but she chose not to confront them directly, at least not yet. Instead, she focused on winning over the skeptics through results. When the new scheduling system she introduced cut wait times for service appointments in half, even the most resistant mechanics had to admit it was an improvement. When updated marketing strategies brought in record numbers of new customers, even the grumpiest salespeople couldn't deny the impact. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. Employees who had once doubted Maya started coming to her with suggestions and feedback, realizing she genuinely valued their input. Morale improved and productivity soared. Customers noticed the difference too, praising the friendlier, more efficient service they received. But Maya didn't stop there. She knew that true change went beyond internal improvements. It extended to the community as well. Inspired by stories she'd heard from employees about struggling families in the area, she launched a program offering discounted vehicle repairs and financing options for low-income residents. The initiative quickly gained traction, earning Metro Motors glowing reviews in local newspapers and social media. Despite the progress, Maya remained grounded. She understood that leadership wasn't about basking in praise or resting on laurels. It was about staying vigilant, listening to feedback, and continuing to push for growth, even when it was uncomfortable. Every challenge, every obstacle, was an opportunity to learn and adapt. And so, as the weeks turned into months, Metro Motors transformed into a place its employees could truly be proud of. What had once been a stagnant, uninspired business was now buzzing with energy and potential. Under Maya's guidance, the dealership wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Yet, even as success mounted, Maya knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. Resistance still lingered in some corners and external pressures loomed large. Competitors grew jealous of the dealership's newfound popularity, spreading rumors and attempting to undermine its reputation. Critics questioned whether Maya's methods were sustainable, accusing her of prioritizing flash over substance. But Maya refused to let negativity derail her mission. With unwavering determination, she continued to steer Metro Motors toward a brighter future, one built on integrity, inclusivity, and innovation. For her, this journey wasn't just about running a successful business. It was about proving that leadership, no matter who wields it, has the power to inspire change and uplift communities. Little did she know, however, that the biggest test of her resolve was still to come. The manager rushed into the back office, his mind racing. He slammed the door shut behind him and leaned against it, trying to process what had just happened. How could this woman, this sharply dressed stranger who walked in like any other customer, claim to be the new owner of Metro Motors? It didn't make sense. In his mind, owners were supposed to look a certain way. Older, maybe wearing fancy suits. Definitely not someone who looked like her. His bias was kicking in full force, clouding his judgment. He grabbed his phone and quickly dialed the corporate office, hoping to confirm whether there was any truth to her claims. The phone rang twice before someone picked up on the other end. "Hey, listen," he said, cutting straight to the point. "There's a woman here claiming she owns the dealership. Says her name is Maya Thompson. Is that even possible?" There was a pause on the line, followed by a quiet chuckle. "Oh, yeah," the voice on the other end replied. "She finalized the deal last week. Didn't anyone tell you? She's the new boss." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. His face flushed red as realization dawned on him. He'd completely blown it. Not only had he dismissed her, but he'd treated her like she was nothing, more than an inconvenience. Panic set in. What was he going to do now? After hanging up, he tried to compose himself. Walking back out into the showroom, he plastered a fake smile on his face and approached Maya again. "Ms. Thompson," he began, his tone overly sweet now. "I'm so sorry about earlier. I had no idea you were already taking charge. Let me show you around personally. We can go over everything, the finances, the staff, the inventory, whatever you need." Maya crossed her arms and studied him carefully. She wasn't fooled for a second. She could see right through his sudden change in attitude. Still, she decided to play along, for now. "Thank you," she said coolly. "But I think I'll stick to my original plan. I'm here to observe first, ask questions later, so if you don't mind, I'll continue speaking with your team." The manager nodded nervously, backing away, but as he retreated, his embarrassment turned into frustration. Who did she think she was, waltzing in here and acting like she owned the place? Sure, technically she did own it now, but that didn't mean she knew anything about running a car dealership. To him, she was still just an outsider, an intruder who didn't belong. His thoughts spiraled further. If word got out that he'd treated the new owner like a nuisance, his reputation would be ruined. Worse yet, she might fire him on the spot. No, he couldn't let that happen. He needed to take control of the situation before it escalated. That's when a terrible idea formed in his head. Instead of owning up to his mistake, he decided to double down. He stormed back into the office and called over 2 security guards, who worked part-time at the dealership. "Listen," he whispered urgently. "There's someone causing trouble out front. A woman claiming to be the owner or something. She's disrupting operations. Can you escort her off the premises?" they'll say. Guards exchanged confused glances. "Are you sure?" one of them asked hesitantly. "If she really is the owner." "She's lying," the manager snapped. "Just trust me on this. Get her out of here before things get worse." Reluctantly, the guards agreed. They followed him back into the showroom, where Maya was deep in conversation with one of the salespeople. She was asking thoughtful questions about customer feedback and employee training programs, clearly showing genuine interest in improving the business. "Excuse me, ma'am," the manager interrupted loudly, drawing everyone's attention. When the room fell silent, he gestured toward the guard standing beside him. "I'm afraid I must ask you to leave. We don't tolerate disruptions here." For a moment, no one moved. The salesperson stared at the manager in shock, while customers glanced around uncomfortably. Then all eyes turned to Maya, waiting to see how she would respond. Maya raised an eyebrow, her expression calm but piercing. Without raising her voice, she addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her tone steady and authoritative, "allow me to clarify something. I am not causing a disruption. In fact, I am the new owner of Metro Cars. Mr. Hartley," she pointedly used his last name, seems unaware of basic respect and professionalism. The room erupted into murmurs. Employees whispered among themselves, exchanging skeptical looks. Customers shifted awkwardly, unsure of what to do. Meanwhile, the manager's face turned beet red. Desperation crept into his voice as he stammered, "That's impossible. You haven't signed anything yet." Without missing a beat, Maya pulled out her phone and opened an email thread confirming the acquisition. "It appears my lawyers disagree," she said dryly. Turning to the security guards, she added, "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Hartley off the premises until further notice." The guards hesitated for a brief second before nodding. One of them gently grabbed the manager by the arm, leading him toward the exit. As they passed by, he shot daggers at Maya with his eyes, muttering under his breath about how this wasn't over. Once the commotion settled, Maya turned back to the staff, who were still staring at her in stunned silence. She took a deep breath, softening her tone. "I know today has been eventful," she admitted with a small smile. "But I want you all to know that I'm here to help us grow together. Change isn't easy, but I believe in this team and in this company. Let's work together to build something great." Her words seemed to ease some of the tension in the room. A few employees nodded cautiously, while others exchanged hopeful glances. For the first time in years, they felt a spark of optimism, a sense that maybe, just maybe, things were about to improve. As Maya spent the rest of the day talking to employees and learning more about the inner workings of the dealership, she couldn't shake the memory of the manager's behavior. It was a stark reminder of the challenges she would face as a black woman in a position of power. But instead of letting it discourage her, she used it as fuel. She was determined to prove that leadership wasn't about appearances. It was about action, integrity, and making a difference. And so the stage was set for what promised to be a transformative journey, not just for Maya, but for everyone at Metro Motors. The sun was just starting to peek over the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow across the city. It was one of those mornings where everything felt fresh, like the world was ready for something new. And for Maya Thompson, it truly was a brand new chapter in her life. After years of climbing the ladder in Silicon Valley, building companies from scratch and breaking barriers in the tech industry, she had decided to take on a completely different challenge, owning a car dealership. Metro Motors wasn't exactly what most people would call glamorous. It was your typical mid-sized dealership tucked away in a busy part of town. The building itself looked worn around the edges, with faded paint and cracked pavement outside. But beneath its rough exterior lay potential, lots of it. Maya saw this place not as it was, but as it could be, a hub of innovation, community, and opportunity. That's why, after months of negotiations and late-night meetings, she finally signed the papers to make it hers. Dressed in a sleek navy blue blazer and tailored trousers, Maya stepped out of her car that morning feeling both excited and nervous. She had always been someone who believed in leading by example, so instead of marching into the dealership with an entourage or making grand announcements, she chose to go low-key. No fanfare, no big speeches. Just her, walking through the doors like any other person curious about buying a car. As soon as she entered the showroom, the smell of leather seats and freshly polished surfaces hit her. The space buzzed with activity, salespeople chatting, with customers' phones ringing off the hook, mechanics bustling around in the service bay visible through a large glass window. Everything seemed chaotic yet oddly familiar. This was a business, plain and simple, and Maya knew businesses inside out. Her eyes scanned the room, taking note of every detail, the way employees interacted with clients, the layout of the cars, on display, even the expressions on people's faces. Some salespeople were friendly and engaging, while others barely glanced up from their phones. One thing was clear: there was plenty of room for improvement here. But before she could dive into fixing anything, she needed to understand how things worked. So she approached the first person she saw, a tall man with slicked back hair wearing a suit that screamed, "Manager." "Good morning," Maya said warmly, offering a polite smile. "I'm interested in learning more about your dealership. Can you tell me a bit about what makes Metro Motors special?" The man blinked at her, clearly caught off guard. For a moment, he looked confused, almost as if he didn't expect anyone like her to walk in. Then his lips curled into a smug grin. "Well, ma'am," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "if you're looking for luxury vehicles, we've got quite the selection. But let me guess, you're probably here because you want advice from someone experienced." He emphasized the last word in a way that made Maya stiffen slightly, though she kept her composure. She nodded politely, ignoring the subtle jab. "Actually, I'm more interested in understanding how your team operates. Customer satisfaction, employee morale, things like that. Do you mind sharing some insights?" Now the man looked downright irritated. Who did this woman think she was, coming in here asking all these questions? In his mind, She couldn't possibly have any real authority. People like her didn't run places like this. At least that's what he assumed. Look, he said, crossing his arms. I don't have time to explain our entire operation to random visitors. If you're serious about buying a car, I suggest coming back later when our sales team has availability. His tone was dismissive, bordering on rude, and he gestured toward an empty seating area near the entrance. You can wait over there, until someone's free. Maya raised an eyebrow, her patience beginning to wear thin. She hadn't expected such blatant disrespect so early in the day. Still, she reminded herself that this was exactly why she came unannounced, to see how people behaved when they thought no one important was watching. With a deep breath, she decided to play along a little longer. Thank you for your suggestion, she replied smoothly, her voice calm but firm. But I should mention, I'm not here to buy a car today. I'm actually the new owner of Metro Motors. For a split second, the manager froze. His jaw dropped ever so slightly, and his eyes widened in disbelief. Owner? This sharply dressed woman standing in front of him? There was no way, absolutely no way. He must have misheard her. What did you say? He asked, his voice sharper now, tinged with suspicion. I said, Maya repeated slowly, enunciating each word. I am the new owner of this dealership. My name is Maya Thompson. Perhaps you've heard of me. The man's face turned pale. For a moment he stood there speechless, unsure of how to respond. Finally he forced a laugh, trying to mask his discomfort. Oh, right, of course. Well, congratulations. Let me grab some paperwork so we can discuss your plans further. He turned abruptly and hurried toward the office, leaving Maya standing alone in the middle of the showroom. She sighed softly, shaking her head. She'd encountered prejudice and bias countless times throughout her career, but moments like this still stung. Not because they surprised her, they rarely did, but because they revealed just how much work remained to be done. Still, Maya refused to let it get to her. She had bigger things to focus on, like turning Metro Motors into the success story she envisioned. Little did she know, however, that the manager's reaction was only the beginning of a much larger confrontation, one that would test her leadership, skills, resilience, and determination to create change in ways she never anticipated.